It was a rainy night, and I was driving home after my shift at the late-night diner where I work. Despite the quiet shift, I felt unusually energetic and knew I'd need to take melatonin once I got home. My usual route, a scenic road by day, becomes quite dark and eerie at night due to the lack of streetlights. There are occasional small parking lots with charming strips of stores, family-owned restaurants, and shops, followed by stretches of dense forest. As I passed one such parking lot, I noticed a woman standing under a solitary light post in the rain, waving me down. She appeared to be in her mid-50s, quite tall, around 5'11" or 6, but very thin, almost gaunt. Her presence was striking, almost ghostly, illuminated by the faint glow of the light post. The rain had drenched her completely, making her hair hang limply around her face, and her clothes cling to her frame. She seemed desperate, her arm extended and her hand waving frantically, trying to catch my attention. I slowed down and lowered my window to ask if she needed a ride. She came over, expressing gratitude and calling me a hero. I asked where she was headed, and she said just up the road to town. She was soaking wet, and though I hesitated to let her into my car, I couldn't leave her out in the cold rain. Picking up a random man would have been a different story, but she seemed harmless despite missing a few teeth, which made me wonder if she might be homeless. However, she didn't have the typical look or smell of someone living on the streets, possibly because the rain masked any odors, and her hair was weighed down and straightened by the water. We pulled up to an intersection with a gas station on one corner. I decided to fill up and asked her if she wanted anything from inside. She declined, so I went in to pay for gas and get some spiked seltzer since it was almost the weekend. When I returned, the woman was gone. I looked around, but she had vanished. Though I felt slightly bad, part of me was also relieved. I filled up the tank and headed home. Once home, I went straight to my apartment, the ground floor of a two-family house. The front door was usually left unlocked, but the doors to each apartment were locked. I let myself in, set down the seltzers, and took a melatonin to help me sleep. Despite the melatonin, I had trouble sleeping, my mind racing with thoughts about the woman. I heard slight noises outside my bedroom, but dismissed them, assuming they were from the upstairs tenant. I woke up in the dark, something unusual for me after taking melatonin. Feeling thirsty, I reached for my water, but saw and heard something across the room. Someone was crouched in the corner behind a dresser. Initially thinking I was hallucinating, I tried to shake off the vision. But then the figure stood up and walked out. I didn't scream or make a sound, sitting in bed in shock. There were no noises after the figure left, which made me question my sanity. I called my dad, who suggested it might have been a night terror. As I became more awake, I turned on the lights and checked the living room. It was empty, and I started to believe I had imagined it. However, I locked my bedroom door before trying to sleep again. In the morning, I got ready for the gym but found the door to the foyer unlocked, causing my heart to sink. I realized the woman might have snuck into my car when I was at the gas station. I called my dad again, and he advised checking if anything was stolen. Nothing was missing from the house, but my car blanket was gone, and there were damp, yellow-brown stains in the back seat. This experience left me deeply disturbed, and I didn't stay at that apartment much longer. I moved out by the end of the month. This happened a few months ago, and I'm still not sure why I agreed, but I decided to join my friend Michael at a house party during our first year of high school. Even though I wasn't invited, Michael managed to get me in. Since I couldn't drive, I went with him. When we arrived late at night, Michael told me to leave my phone in the car, saying I might lose it or someone might steal it. Confused but compliant, I nodded, and we got out of the car. We headed into the backyard where the party was in full swing. I saw people smoking, drinking, and possibly doing drugs in small groups. Michael encouraged me to mingle, so I did. After a few hours, I realized I had drunk too much because my vision was blurry. I leaned against the house for support and noticed it was either midnight or 1 in the morning. Knowing it was time to leave, I tried to find Michael but couldn't locate him. I asked a few people if they'd seen him, but no one had. I then reached for my phone, only to remember it was in Michael's car. Frustrated, I realized walking home was my only option since my house wasn't too far, but the chilly fall night made me hesitate. With no other option, I started my journey home. As I stumbled down the street, feeling lightheaded and dizzy, I cursed myself for listening to Michael and leaving my phone behind. Thoughts raced through my mind. Why did Michael leave me alone? Why did I drink so much? Feeling cold and tired, I considered hitchhiking and stuck out my thumb, hoping someone would stop. Several cars passed without stopping, and I felt increasingly uneasy. Eventually, a gray truck pulled over, and an older man with a beard offered me a ride. Grateful, I got in and told him my address. As we drove, he tried to make small talk, but I was too disoriented to respond coherently. When we turned onto my street, I felt uneasy but couldn't pinpoint why. Then we drove past my house. I told the man we had passed it, but he ignored me and kept driving. Panic set in as the man's demeanor changed, and he said, "You know, you shouldn't be drunk while you're hitchhiking because you'd make a very easy target," smirking darkly. He reached over and started rubbing my leg, and I realized I was in danger. Just then, a police siren blared, and red and blue lights illuminated the night. The man panicked, stopped the truck, and unlocked the doors. I jumped out and ran to the police officer, explaining everything. The officer was searching for someone in a gray truck who had stolen from a store. While I wasn't sure if it was the same man, I was relieved the police had intervened. The officer gave me a ride home, and I vowed never to get so drunk again. This experience taught me the importance of being responsible and aware of my surroundings, even while having fun.